was legal. First of all, just hemp as for use for oil and use for textiles and use for you could make houses out of it, and you could fucking fuel cars with it. You could build cars with it. Lotus actually made a fucking car with a instead of carbon fiber or fiberglass, they made the fucking shell out of hemp. I mean, it's all possible. We just can't live the way we're living right now, and there's no way to effectively reset civilization better than psychedelics. But meanwhile, saying that makes you sound like a retard. Like, I'm listening to my own self, and I'm like, if I didn't do drugs, if I had never, done mushrooms or anything like that, I heard a guy talking like this. I'm like, who the fuck is this idiot? Like, how could you possibly say that? You think you have all the answers? I don't have the answers, but I do have a possible door to the answers. And that's what I think psychedelic experiences are. And these guys that are running for president, they will deny that to the end. They will, Obama had this fucking thing recently where it was a town hall meeting and he got all these questions from the internet. And the number one question was marijuana legalization. And every other issue that was being discussed that day, whether it was healthcare or anything else, he gave these really well thought out, in-depth answers. But it came to the marijuana question, it was like, ho ho ho, well, I don't know what that says about this group here, ho ho ho. And he said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Really? You don't think that's a good idea? You don't think it's a good idea to stop suppressing people? You don't think it's a good idea to not jail people for having a fucking experience? To not jail people for selling a plant, a naturally growing thing that's never killed anyone? You don't think that it's a good idea to reverse an evil, fucked up, corrupt law that is helping people with the worst karma ever, imprison people for nothing? Well, you, sir, need some fucking mushrooms. And that's the problem. We have a whole group of people running this fucking country, and none of them are doing mushrooms. I would like to have a talk show. I've talked about this on stage. I wanted to have a talk show where I make people do mushrooms with me, and it would be called "Do Mushrooms with Joe Rogan." And we have on, like people that you want to know a real truth serum? Mushrooms is the best truth serum. You once that fucking wave hits you, that wave of alien information and the wave of love and the connectivity, and when you see the fiber of the very universe all around you, you're gonna start talking. And if I could get, like Ken Starr and Dick Cheney, and could you imagine if those guys, like, if people sued them, and people, because, like, look, there's a lot of people that want to take them to trial for war crimes, especially Dick Cheney. When you think about the fact that Dick Cheney was a CEO of Halliburton, and then, he becomes the vice president of the United States, we go to some crazy fucking wars where Halliburton gets the contracts, and the wars are all based on totally false information about weapons of mass destruction. There's people that say that Dick Cheney was at the helm of it and he was lying. You could try that motherfucker for wars against you, crimes against humanity. You could try him for that. And if he was convicted and they said, here's one thing you can do to get out of it, you gotta do the let's do mushrooms with Joe Rogan show. And you have a guy like that, like any really fucked up politician, George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., anyone like that, sit them down and make them do mushrooms. Make them realize that just because you've been living this life the same way as everyone before you, as your father and all these other corrupt politicians, it doesn't mean it's justifiable. Just because you can find examples all around you of people who have done worse and people who are doing the same things, doesn't mean that it's supposed to continue. And there's got to be a way to stop it. It doesn't seem to be stopping with the evolution of culture. It seems to be the same. It seems to be that the corruption, it's being exposed more, but it doesn't seem like it's put a monkey wrench in it, like they're just stopping. The financial corruption involved in this bailout is staggering. And if you really want to hurt your head, you go and read some of Matt Taibbi's articles about it. It fucking hurts. Like, when you look at the billions and trillions of dollars and where it's going and how it's being funded, and these guys are getting bonuses, and they're getting bonuses, but they don't have any money, and the money came from taxpayers, but they were owed the bonuses or else they'll quit. Well, why don't they fire them? They're the ones that fucked this thing up in the first place. It's staggering. I mean, it's literally our entire civilization is built on a foundation of unfixable bullshit. it's the only way, I think, to restructure our society correctly. Would literally, it would have to be done by someone other than us, because once, I mean, that's what the Constitution was all about. When there was the birth of America, the idea of America was that we were going to have a separation of church and state, that we were going to have people that could only run it for a few years and then they would have to leave. We were going to have the will of the people, and then it was going to be, we were going to be free from all the imperialism bullshit that we had to deal with in England and in Europe. But after a while, it just fell into the same thing. You know, people inherently, if we're left alone and we're just people the way we are right now, our evolution, our cultural and social evolution is so much slower than the evolution of technology and what we're able to do. We're able to communicate with people all around the world. We're able to fly in fucking tubes through the sky. We're able to send video through the air. You know, we're able to watch television programs that are being broadcast from the other side of the planet. I mean, we have this incredible technological capabilities, but socially, we're just a bump ahead of where we were in the 50s. Just a little. Just a little. I mean, it could be argued that we're like slightly behind where we were in the 70s in comparison to, like, you know, if you like think about it, like as far as like what kind of access to information they had back then. You know, everybody was all about love and fucking peace and love. Why is that? Why was the 60s, the late 60s? What's the drop off between then and here? You know, it's drugs. It's what it is. When, you know, all that summer of love, all that Woodstock shit, they were all on acid, okay? They were all on mushrooms, they were all on peyote, they were high as fuck, and they were realizing that this way of living the life that, you know, leads you to be your dad is not where it's at. When you watch your dad drop dead of a fucking heart attack at 55 and you scarcely can remember him laughing 3 times ever, you know, and you go, what, I'm supposed to be that guy? What the fuck is that? You know, and then the Vietnam War and all the disenchantment with our government. I mean, that's what forced people to more drugs. That's what forced the culture to change more. We need something like that. We need something like that right now. Because the way we're doing it, we are just spinning our fucking wheels. When the president wins the Nobel Peace Prize and then, like a week later, sends 30,000 people more into Afghanistan, you gotta go, what the fuck? Really?